This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and My Mortgage Team, and welcome back. It's Sunday evening.
Welcome back, Carey Ann. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's always good to see you. What is that about you? It's always good to see Carey Ann.
Oh, I love it. So,
go ahead.
What do you have to say there,
Well,
Ron?
I have to say we have a special guest in the house tonight.
We do.
We do. One of my favorite people on the planet. He happens to be the president of Realty One Group International.
Wow.
I mean, he's been in the business, I think, longer than I have. It's hard to imagine. I mean, they were selling caves when I first got licensed. But seriously, we want to welcome Mr. Vinnie Tracy from Realty One Group International. Welcome.
Well, it is so good to be with you guys. Thanks.
Absolutely. This is a pleasure.
You know, I shared with today. He was with our team at the office today, and I shared that Vinnie had a lot to do with me choosing Realty One Group. Believe it or not. Not that I was some big catch, but after 35 years in the industry, I'd earned the right to have an opinion of what I thought was a good company, and maybe one that
You're a big deal there, Monte.
I'm really not a big deal.
You are. Big deal.
And,
big deal.
Big deal. Anyways. So after researching several companies, you know most of the story, Carey Ann, where I was with, another company, the company that has the balloon. I forget their read something. I forget what they're called, but you're familiar with those people, aren't you?
I am very familiar with that company. I started there in 1977.
Holy cow!
It's a good year. You know why?
It was a good year. Why is that? Don't say it. Don't say it.
The blizzard of 77.
You were born?
January, yeah.
No kidding.
It's a good year.
That is a good year.
Boy, that makes you feel even more important, doesn't it?
It does. Boy, thank you for making me feel
Hey,
very
but you know what? We're still going strong. This is what I love.
Mm-hmm.
That's
We're
right.
bringing up the different generations in this business. So
Anyhow, we have with us the president of Realty One Group International, and Vinnie has offered to share with us some of his experience. And Vinnie, before we get started about your experience with Realty One Group, I have a conviction that before anybody can believe the message, they have to first believe the messenger. Can you share with us a little bit about your history in the real estate business?
Well, like I said, I started in 1977 with a company by the name of Remax, wonderful company. And it was a disruptor. It was a game changer back then. And when I started, we had less than 400 people in that whole system.
In the whole company?
Whole company.
Remax.
I think we were in 5 states at that time.
Wow.
And it was, and 200 of those 400 agents were in Denver, Colorado, where the company was founded.
Wow. So what year was that again? 77?
77.
So I bought my franchise with Remax, and I think it was 85.
Okay. Well, at that point in 1985, you always look at milestones and how people grow and things. And Remax in those first 10 years, from 73 to 83, when it was originally founded in 73, they grew to 3,300 agents.
Wow. And
from 83, and it was right about when you came in, to 93, they grew to 33,000 agents.
Wow.
And I'm looking at Realty One Group, and we're ahead of that curve. So
that's exciting.
That is exciting.
And it was really, honestly, people didn't realize that, I think, until I shared today, is that knowing that you were at the helm of this fairly new or newly found, company. I mean, where Realty One Group is 10 years to 12 years old, something like that now. Mm-hmm. So it really is not a new company.
No. Yeah. In fact, the company was founded in 2005.
Okay.
And it was really founded as a local company. Uh-huh. The guy started it in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Had 1 office, grew that to 4 offices. Went to Arizona, opened up 7 offices there, and finally Southern California. And they started franchising in 2012. So when it comes to the franchising curve, we're still in the infancy of the company.
Wow. So anyhow, seeing you at the helm gave me a whole lot of peace and confidence. Okay, this is, because the story. I was with Remax for 27 years and left a couple of years ago because I just didn't. When they went publicly owned, I saw a difference in the culture. And no offense to any company out there, but culture is really, really important to me. And I'm not saying they've got anything other than a great culture, just that it was different, okay? And so I looked around for another and went with another company and found out the culture was awesome, but it was that the business model was not for today. Okay, it was too difficult to recruit to a 70-30 split of good agents, experienced agents. I had wonderful people, but nobody had any experience because I would help them get to a certain level of success, and then they go on down the road to a what they felt like was a more beneficial split to them. So, but anyway, I thank you for bringing that confidence to our world, because Connie and I were not, at that point, really not planning on buying another franchise. But it was because we were confident not only is the business model for today, but it had leadership that I recognized and was confident in.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And if you want to know something, it's great to be reunited with you.
Thank you.
Because, you always want to have owners that really care about their people, care about, we call it at our company, it's culture or cool culture.
Culture, yeah.
And that's kind of fun because that's exactly what you bring. And the real important part about any owner, no matter what business it is, my firm belief is I'm in business to change the lives of my agents and my brokers.
Amen.
And when you're a broker, your job is to change the lives of your agents. And our agents, what their job is to change the lives of the consumer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as long as you know who your customer is, and if you're serving them properly, you're going to be successful. And Monte, I really appreciate you being with us because I know you bring that.
He does.
Thank you.
Yep.
One of the keys, I think, to Realty One Group is that agent-centric part of it. I've heard the battle, the argument over, well, we're not, we're consumer-centric, or no, we're agent-centric. I don't see a whole lot of brokers stepping out there and saying we're agent-centric as Realty One Group is. But I believe if we attract great agents, those great agents already know that their life is consumer-centric. So the company doesn't have to worry about being consumer-centric. I mean, we are by default. But what our focus is on is loving and nurturing and building and helping those agents become all they can become in an amazing environment.
Couldn't agree more with you. I look at a lot of the companies now, and that has been the big thing in our real estate industry ever since I started 42 years ago. Who is the customer? And most real estate companies, they believe that the consumer is their customer.
Right.
And I just don't. What they're trying to do is how do they maximize what their profit is? And they know they want to go directly to that consumer. And sometimes, I hate to say it, over the back or around the back of their agents. And that isn't the way I believe in conducting the business.
Right.
And I've been, that has been my battle cry for 42 years.
So before we go further on the real estate, you have a connection to Tennessee, don't you? Even though you live in California and Colorado, you have a connection to Tennessee. To talk about that for a minute, would you? You were giving some agents at my office a little grief, the ones that were on Georgia's side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We won't name names.
Starts with Todd Walker.
Yeah, I was going to say I will. It's my connection to Tennessee is I was very fortunate enough. I got an athletic scholarship to Tennessee to play basketball. And I was the first New York kid. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I don't have the accent anymore. I found out when I went to East Tennessee, you better lose that accent.
You better.
It took me 6 months before anyone there could understand me or I could understand them. But the two kids that are probably most famous that followed me to Tennessee was Ernie Grunfeld and Bernard King.
Wow.
And the Ernie and Bernie show, as people would know that. And I always remember them looking at me and saying, Vinnie, why in the world did you come down here? And I said, well, back home we have a couple of newspapers. One's the Daily News. And I said, look at their sports section and tell me where college basketball is. And it's on the 7th page. And I said, when you open the Knoxville News Sentinel, I said, we are the first 3 pages, and then the pro sports get the rest. And I said, that's why you guys want to be here. We want to be the New York Knicks in Tennessee.
Love it.
That's what they knew.
Yeah.
And in fact, both those guys went on and played for the New York Knicks.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah.
And you played real estate instead of basketball.
Yeah, sometimes you have to know what your strengths are. And my strength was talking to people and kind of being the team builder and the motivator and just having fun that way. And those guys went on to make tens of millions of dollars playing professional sports.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about, I guess we've covered your history in the industry, that you are somebody who's been around for, 38 years with Remax. Mm-hmm. And then you were out of the business for a couple of years. I think they made you sign a no-compete or something.
Yeah, I had a 2-year non-compete. My past company went public in 2013, and the board of directors of most companies, what their job is succession planning. So all the people that have been there for a long time built the company. We basically are asked to retire. And I'm the one that got the 2-year non-compete, and everybody else got the 1 year. Not so sure about that.
You must have been the biggest threat, maybe.
Well, I don't, I look at it and, I kind of laugh about that. But Those 2 years were very long for my wife.
Well, we have a lot more to talk here with Vinnie, Tracy, with Realty One Group. We're just going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be in discussion with Vinnie. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate. Are you someone who is looking to gain wealth through real estate? My name is Carey Ann and I'm with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. Whether you're looking to purchase your first home, a second home, or even an investment property, my team and I, we specialize in making the process of home ownership smooth as possible. With our vast variety of mortgage programs, our competitive interest rates, and our local support center, we have the ability to serve so many deserving families and help find just the right mortgage program to fit within your short and long-term financial goals. Mortgage loans is what we know, and approving them is what we do. We'd be honored to help you begin the process today. Check us out at yourtnlendingsolution.com. That's yourtnlendingsolution.com. Or give us a call, always a friendly voice, 615-456-4456. That's 456-4456. We look forward to helping you and beginning your mortgage application today.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
We're back. Before we get started, though, I want to remind everybody, please send those questions to questions@talkmusiccity.com. or hashtag Talk Music City.
Yes, and the show is also a podcast, so you can listen at your leisure. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and others. You can also watch us on YouTube or our favorite, Facebook. Simply search The Talk of Music City.
And we're with Vinnie Tracy, the president of Realty One Group. And so let's catch up to where we were almost to a few minutes ago, Vinnie, and that is, let's see, you were asked to go ahead and hang up your saddle, I guess, from the last 38 years.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
But then after that 2 years of no compete, you decided to come out of that scenario and decide to look around. How did you come across, with all the real estate brands and companies and startups and so forth out there, how did you decide on this one particular one?
Well, it's I was never with traditional real estate companies, so I knew all of those would be out, and it wouldn't be anything I'd be interested in.
Plus, they probably didn't like you that much.
They didn't, to be honest with you. I've known a lot of the people for a long time, and we compete friendly, obviously.
Sure,
right.
Sure.
That isn't something I ever had. It wasn't my interest. So, what do you do when you don't know what to do? So I called a friend who had been in real estate publishing. He was the gentleman, is the publisher and owner of Riz Media Real Estate, real estate magazine.
I read them every day.
Yeah, great stuff. And so his name is John Featherston, and John and I had a lot in common. He was a college basketball player too. So with us playing basically during the same time, and then he's got two boys that played for Syracuse, and my sons played college sports also. So we always stayed in touch, and, it was more friendly. So I called him up and I said, John, it was July of 2017. My non-compete was up basically September 1. And I said, John, if you were me, where would you go in the industry? And he goes, Vinnie, I'm so excited you want to get back in. He goes, there's only two companies for you. And he told me about the first one. I don't want to say the competitor. They're a great company. But, when I went there, John said, let me give that owner a call. So sure enough, he calls him and 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from the owner of that company. And he says, Vinnie, would you please get on a plane and come down and talk to me? And they were based in Phoenix, Arizona. So sure enough, I go do that. And it was a 5-hour interview. And what it basically was, I think they were trying to pick my brain on what I thought was happening in the industry.
Sure, yeah.
You know, where do you want to go? What do you see? And they really wanted to find out about the last company I was with. And
get all the scoop.
Exactly. So, you know, that was fun. But, you know, when I got to talking with him, he was asking me all the questions. And finally, at the end, I said to him, I looked at him and I said, how do you want to grow your company? Through franchising? And he said, well, Vinnie, I'd rather do it through acquisition.
Okay.
And I said, well, why in the world would that be? And he goes, well, you know, I want to sell 12 to 15 franchises a year. And I said, well, okay, tell me why. And he said, the reason I want to acquire people is because I don't trust my franchisees to do things the way I would. And when you're a franchisor, that isn't a good recipe.
That's not.
And, you know, I told him a funny story. And I said, well, if that's your attitude and you only want to sell 12 to 15 franchises a year and do it through acquisitions, I said, you're going to get cooked in the squat. And he looked at me and he goes, cooked in the squat? And I said, yeah, you know, when I went down to Tennessee, I said, you know, became friends with a lot of people locally. And I used to go over to one house in particular, and their grandma used to make us biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
I said, I didn't know what biscuits and gravy were growing up in New York, but boy, I sure liked them when I got down south. And so sure enough, Mrs. Campbell, she's making biscuits one day, and she's making 3 dozen. And invariably, there was always one that would never rise to the top. And I said, Mrs. Campbell, what happened with that?
Right.
And she goes, well, Vinnie, that got cooked in the squat. And I said, wait, really? And she goes, yeah, it couldn't jump up. And I looked at that owner and I said, that's what's going to happen to your business. You're going to get cooked in the squat and you won't be able to jump up if you don't franchise.
To that next level, yeah. Yeah.
And I said, because you're always going to be a small to mid-sized company, you're never going to be a leader in this industry. So I knew that wasn't the place for me. So I came home, and the other company that John Featherston told me about was Realty One Group. And I say, he goes, do you want me to make a phone call to the owner? And I said, no, let me do that. So sure enough, I call him, and I get a text back from, boy, Vinnie, I'd love to talk with you. So I text him right back because, you know, he's a younger guy. You know, he's at that time he was like in his late 30s, and you know, likes to text, and you know, I like to talk on the phone. Just the, you know,
old school.
Yeah.
Old school.
Keep it old school.
You got it. Boom, boom. But you know, we'd always go back and forth for a week. Hey, when can we talk? And you know, I remember my old training was Monday morning or Monday afternoon better, you know, or that kind of thing, and people would laugh at that. But finally, I call him, and he answers the phone. And I said, Cuba, how are you doing? He goes, Vinnie, I'm doing great. I know you've been trying to call me. What do you want to do? Do you want to buy a franchise? And I said, no, Cuba, I want to run your company. And he goes, who are you? And I said, well, you know, and he said, do you have a resume? And I said, at my age, I don't do a resume. I'm sorry. You know, this is what I'm going to do. And I said, if you think, would you talk to John Featherston? He goes, oh, I love John. He was a speaker at our convention.
Yeah.
And I said, well, call John, and if I'm worth a call back, give me a call. So sure enough, about 15 minutes later, the phone rings, and he goes, get on a plane. I need to talk with you. And I went down, I went to California to see him, and kind of went through the same thing. The interview wasn't as long. It was a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Because I think we, you know, probably talked with those guys for about 2 hours, and we went to lunch. And on the way to the airport, I looked at Cuba and I said, how do you want to grow your company? And he said, Vinnie, I want to grow it through franchising. And I said, okay, that was one box that was checked off for me. And the second one, I said, give me the philosophy of your company. Why are you in business? And I can't believe what he said, because it's exactly what I said earlier today. And he said, Vinnie, the reason I'm in business is to change the lives of my agents and my brokers. And that's when I knew I found a home.
Yeah,
because that's when you know, that's what that feeling that goes up your spine and your hair stands up on end. I said, that's when I knew I was at the right place.
Your beliefs both matched.
They
that was
did.
great.
Amen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was in 2005?
No, that was actually in 2017.
Oh, okay.
That's
okay.
when I came out of retirement.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, he's only been with them for a couple of years now,
Wow.
and I guess you've kind of grown since then, right?
We have. It's always great to have a reputation in an industry. Just like our real estate agents have a reputation in their neighborhoods. I guess I found out that mine was pretty darn good because a lot of people followed. And the way the situation worked out, we had 85 offices when I joined the company on September 11th. What a great day to start, 2017.
Wow.
And
Just a little over 2 years ago.
so right now it's been a little over 2 years, and we've gone. I just signed 2 franchises right before we got on the air. Nice thing in DocuSign, you can do those things. And now we are at 239 offices.
Holy cow.
So we've grown. What is that? 154 offices in the last 2 years.
Wow.
But to put that into perspective, with 85 offices, it took us 12 and a half years to get there. And in the last 12 and a half months,
Wow.
we've sold 91.
Wow.
Amazing. There's no cooking in the squat
Nope.
pot with you.
We are jumping up.
You're jumping. You're taking it. Hey, so we have Vinnie Tracy here with us, the president of Realty One Group. It's just such a pleasure having you here. We're going to talk more. We're going to get into a little bit, how does Realty One Group stand apart from other real estate franchises? You've been listening to the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Hi, my name is Monte Mohr. I'm the broker owner of Realty One Group Music City. I've been an active real estate broker for over 35 years now, personally selling thousands of homes. That's why I recently opened Tennessee's first Realty One Group office. As a real estate professional, would you like having it all? Cutting-edge technology, full support, world-class training, same-day commission deposits, all for free? How about strong collaborative culture, national brand recognition, new high exposure, easy access office, and a non-competing broker committed to your success 7 days a week? Now let's top that off with all experienced agents receiving 100% of their commission from day one. I know, where's the catch, right? There is no catch. Call us today and schedule a confidential meeting and learn why Realty One Group is the fastest growing real estate franchise in the nation. Call 636-8244. That's 615-636-8244. Or go to topagentsuccess.com. That's topagentsuccess.com.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
This might be one of my favorite episodes, Carey Ann, because I got one of my favorite folks here, a man I've looked up to, an icon in the real estate industry, Mr. Vinnie Tracy. One of the few people who have been in the business longer than I have. Just kidding, Vinnie. But I've been in, I tell people this all the time, that I've actually been in the business for 35 years of days and 35 years of nights. So it's really 70 years in the industry. Because in our part of it, we don't get to take off weekends or anything else, but like you probably have once in a while anyhow. But anyways, so good to have you here, my friend. And let's talk more about your story on how you got here.
Okay.
I know from my perspective, I'm sorry, I just interrupted you. I know from my perspective, I looked at similar things that you were looking for, I think, when you made your decision. Do you take the chance of taking your reputation as an icon in the industry? You take your chance with some company you've not heard of before until you sit down with them, look the owner in the eye and say, okay, do we share similar convictions? Do we honestly share similar convictions? I think that's what happened in that meeting with Cuba.
Absolutely. That's what's critical. And, even real estate agents, when they look to go to another firm, that's the one thing they should talk to the owner about. What do you believe in? How are you going to help me get to that next level? Because, we always talk about it, and we have, the average agent in the real estate business right now does about 5 transactions. And, whoever wants to be average. And, with the way you change agents' lives is to give them tools, technology, education, and coaching for them to get to that next level. Because when you take an agent that has been doing 5, 6, or 7 transactions and all of a sudden they're doing 10 to 12,
right, yeah.
That's a major thing in their life.
It changes their life.
It does. You know, I've heard so many stories of our broker owners and the agents. I always remember a lady so many years ago. Her name was Heather, and Heather was a broker up in Ottawa, Canada, and she opened the first office up there of my other company. And the way you used to graduate our training class, I was the instructor back in the old days.
Right.
Okay, you bought this company, and now let me tell you what you have. Mm-hmm. And we'd always go through recruiting. And to graduate the class, you had to give a recruiting presentation.
Okay.
So I take her into an office, and I said, okay, Heather, go ahead. And she puts her head down on the table, and she starts crying. And, you know, at this point, I'm like 25 or 26 years old, and she's probably about 40.
Okay.
And I said, and I take her hand and I said, Heather, what are you so afraid of? I said, you can change the lives of your people. I said, think about this. I said, what I know about you is you're a single mom and you're raising 2 kids. And I said, how many single moms are out there that what they're looking for because of the system we were in, similar to this system, is they earn more on every transaction. And I said, what mother doesn't want to have that so they can have time with their children?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, that they can make more in every transaction. And I said, you will change their lives. There's people out there that they're driving a 12-year-old car. And you know what their wish is they could drive a 3-year-old car.
Sure.
And I said, if you change their life and help them do more transactions or make more in every one, that's gonna happen. It can be the person that they've been married for 5 years and they've never been on a honeymoon and they've always wanted to take their spouse on one. They can do that. It's all these little things that we have to look at the lives of our people and what really makes them tick. And, you know, that's the important
Vinnie,
part.
As a broker, that's exactly what I love so much about Realty One Group, because I just spent a couple of years with another company and we couldn't talk about the big white elephant in the corner of the office called a 70-30 split. I mean, we tried to talk about how wonderful it was and the culture and all that kind of thing. And the company has a great culture. That's awesome. Culture is so critical. I mean, when we talk about the 100% concept that Realty One brings to One Group brings to the table at a whole nother level, we don't even lead with that. You know, when I first got involved with or began researching Realty One Group as a whole, as a company, as a possibility, all the brokers would tell me that I was talking with, well, we don't even lead with that. We don't even lead with that part of the story. I said, well, how can that be? That's because I've been fighting this big white elephant sitting in the corner of the office called a 70-30 split. How can you not want to talk about the 100%? How do you not lead with that? And because that's not the most important part of it. That's not the most important part of it. And I said, well, yeah, that sounds cool, but is it really real? Well, I'll tell you what, it is absolutely. The 100% is the frosting on the cake. But this cake is a beautiful cake before we ever get to the frosting part of it. And that's the culture, that's the service, that's the heart of the leadership. I mean, there's so many other elements than the 100%.
And, you know, when you couple that with a great broker that wants to teach people and you give them the proper tools and the technology and the education and mentoring, that's where it's at.
I mean, yeah, the challenge now is that agents will sit across the desk from me or the table from me and say, okay, what's the catch? How in the world can you provide world-class training, over 500 hours of it now, full service, same-day commission deposit, a classy office, cutting-edge technology that would cost thousands of dollars to replace? How do you do all that plus 100% commission? What's the catch? There's got to be a catch somewhere.
Well, what it is we cut the fat out of the industry.
Right.
Because a lot of companies, they have such a large overhead. I was talking with a broker in Utah who has 27 offices. And I said, what wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning? And he goes, $785,000. I said, what do you mean? He goes, that's what my overhead is every month.
Wow.
And he said, before I make a dime, that's what I have to cover. And what's unique about Realty One Group is we cut that fat out of the industry. I was listening to a broker of a large company in the Southeast about 2 years ago, And he said, yes, we're the largest one in our city. We've got 1,400 agents. We have 140 employees. And what we did, Vinnie, is we bought a company similar to Realty One Group. It wasn't a branded one, but we just happened to buy it. They had 1,800 agents and 14 employees. And he said, so which company do you think I make more money with? And he said, and where do you think the agents make more money? Right. Because of my other company, because of the overhead that we had to charge the agents, who started with us 50-50.
Right.
And if they got good enough, they got up to 60-40. And some of your better agents, to me, they were a loss leader. And I said, what do you mean by loss leader? He said, well, what happened is they would have a lot of yard signs out there. Mm-hmm. And any time that we got phone calls or inquiries, we'd always give it to a 50-50 agent mm-hmm. because we had to make it up on the other side. He said it's no different than when you go to the grocery store and Tide is on sale for 2 cents less than what they paid for it, but they know you're going to buy $67 worth of other groceries. Mm-hmm. They'll make it up somewhere. Mm-hmm. So ours, we cut the fat out of the industry. That's why our agents are able to make more money, and our brokers make a great living too.
Absolutely. And with a conviction that we truly are the best gig in town. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, our biggest challenge right now, and I'm not complaining about this, our biggest challenge right now is obscurity. Because we're the first one open, the first Realty One Group open in the state, people don't know who Realty One Group is, unless they reach around to some of the other states like California and Arizona and those areas where it's a household name.
I think being the first in town is amazing. That's how I've always done it. I was the first CMG here.
No, I'm not complaining.
And first, I think it's a great. Eventually, it's going to take off, and I think you're doing amazing things with the traction that you have going right now, which is really cool.
We've gone from 20 agents to 75 agents in a short time.
And I think hiring the same ones or the ones that have the same beliefs is so key. That's what I do in my office.
Right.
There's a lot of people that cross my desk to hire, but if they don't, or if our belief systems don't match up, we're not going to be able to really make a difference out there. I think so. I love that. I think that's huge.
Yeah, it is. But, not a lot of people are willing to take that first step. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of followers out there. There are not a lot of people that go, hey, follow me.
Sure.
So, I found that with the old company also, that we always had the unique person, we called them the pioneers. Mm-hmm. And, back in the old days, when we were going west in the United States, they'd always call the pioneers are the ones that wore the arrow shirts. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because everybody shot at them.
I had some of those arrow holes in me from being one of the first. I mean, I wasn't one of the first RE/MAX offices in Florida, but there weren't very many when I got my brokerage. And I remember some of the more well-known brokers saying, well, what's a RE/MAX? What's a RE/MAX? Now it's, we know with the dominating posture that now they are across the country. I think we're going to see something even greater with Realty One Group. And I'm going to predict this in a minute here, because I truly believe what you guys are going to see as a company, as an organization, is going to be a growth spurt that's going to be phenomenal, okay? And a reason for that, let me just share a peek of it now. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have a lot of years in this industry, and not just from a broker standpoint, but from out there in the field level. And what I see is the value of 100% concept being tenfold, 100-fold, because as more and more fingers get in the pie, more and more people have to, for instance, agents of this one company or that's owned by, the company that just got hooked up with Amazon, for instance. Mm-hmm. Okay, giving 45% away because people happen to shop at Amazon. Look at the value of those transactions that aren't connected now to Amazon. It's going to be huge. Well, what if you could start with 100%? And not have to give away, 30% right off the bat, and that's what we're going to see happening. I'm sorry, I can't explain it in this short amount of time, but let's Carey Ann, take us from there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for everybody for tuning in this evening. We have one more segment with Vinnie Tracy, the president of Realty One Group. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City real estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, Realty One Group, Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
And we're blessed to have Mr. Vinnie Tracy with Realty One Group here with us this evening, pulling back the veil and talking about the future of real estate. And we got some great topics here, Vinnie. Thank you again for sharing your wisdom and experience.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
This is fun. Great to be with you
Well,
guys.
we try to have some fun.
Yeah,
We do.
Fun on the show. We work so hard all week and try to make a difference. So this is kind of like letting our hair down. Well, my hair's already down. So there you go.
I just want to say I'm sorry if I've said anything, if I seem a little incoherent, or whatever it is.
What are you saying?
Because I've got to, if somebody had some pliers right now, I would yank this tooth out of my head right now.
That would make good TV, though.
That would
Can you
be.
imagine? Find me some pliers.
It hurts. Anybody had a toothache in the room
I love
before?
it.
Oh, man, it's not good timing right now.
So, Vinnie, we want to talk, the big money that's coming into the industry here, right? So, share your thoughts. Tell a little bit more about your take on it all. Big money.
Yeah, big money has been coming into the industry. Everybody knows it. It's, we hear the Compasses today. We hear Zillows. We hear all of these people that are coming in and they're throwing around ridiculous amounts of money. I look at Compass, and great company, by the way.
Yeah, they're here. They moved here. Mhm.
Yeah, they did.
They're making some moves here for sure.
Yeah, and what their promise was, or what they said their goal was, a couple of years ago, by 2020, they wanted to be in the top 3 in the top 20 cities in the United States. And, they were funded by SoftBank, which they have a fund called the Vision Fund. And they were funded with $1.4 billion to go make that happen.
I've heard the average acquisition of an agent is $57,000. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, it's probably pretty darn close to that. And
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No.
How do you buy culture is what I'd like to know.
Well, it isn't even by culture. What you're doing is you're renting these agents for 2 to 3 year period of time, because those are the kind of contracts you have them on. And many of them can't wait to get out of it to go do what they used to do, but it's hard to turn that kind of money down.
Sure.
And, the end game, you always have to look at what's the end game. Oh, they have $1.4 billion. Most of the real estate agents don't think about what happens when that happens.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
gone.
what happens when that happens is that company has to go public because they're in a fund, and the Vision Fund is, if you know anything about it, maybe you've invested in some of these things, they have usually a 3 to 5 year lifetime where they have to invest the money. Then those companies in that 5 year period of time have to pay it back. And the way they pay it back is to go public. And the fund gets a big portion of that as the payback. But that also changes the culture of your company, which I have experienced.
I'll bet.
Because
you did.
you go from the agent is your customer to now Wall Street is your customer. But if you look at it, the big money coming into the industry really started, the first time I ever remember it was 1977. And we all know the company Merrill Lynch.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Merrill Lynch got into the real estate industry, and you'll never guess what their goal was to be in the top 3 in the top 20 cities in the United States.
Wow.
So they started in 77, and what they wanted to be was a financial supermarket. Because, they had stocks and bonds and things like that, but now they look at the agents' commissions, we can get a portion of that. And we can also push some of our products onto the consumer so we can make a return on that. Well, Merrill Lynch grew to 450 offices.
Wow.
And they were in 20 states at that time. And they found out it really wasn't working for them. So what happened is 1989, they sold to Prudential. Okay, which was perfect because the people that had those offices, they wanted another big name, and Prudential was big. What did Prudential want? They wanted to push their insurance products. And they went all the way from 1989 owning that company, and they sold it in 2011 to a company by the name of Brookfield. And Brookfield was a very large real estate holdings company, but also owned the largest real estate company in Canada called Royal LePage. And they did pick up another company by the name of Real Living. So all of a sudden, when they bought it in 2011, all the Prudential people were upset because they didn't have a big name they could go to. Nobody knew Brookfield, and they didn't know Real Living, so they were really upset, and a lot of them were going to jump ship. So Brookfield was forced to sell the company to Berkshire Hathaway.
Wow.
Okay? And the interesting part about that was this is the first time Berkshire Hathaway ever put their name on a business other than a small furniture business in Omaha, Nebraska.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's what happened to that. So that is that one. And I look back to 1979. Well, in 1971, a company by the name of Century 21 was founded. Wow. And they did a great job. They probably the greatest franchisor in real estate history. In those early days because of what they did. They understood exactly what their customer needed. They needed an image. They gave them a gold jacket. They needed a training program. They gave them the 2-in-1 program. And they also gave them national advertising, which made the little mom and pop in your neighborhood all of a sudden be a big company that could advertise on TV. Well, they sold that in 1979 to TWA, the airlines.
Wow.
Okay, and you go, why would they sell it? Why would they want to buy it?
Yeah.
Well, TWA at that time owned Hertz Rental Car, and they also owned Hilton Hotels. So what they thought was, when you fly on their airline, you're going to go and rent a car from Hertz. You're going to stay at a Hilton Hotel, and a lot of times the reason you're in town is because you want to buy a house.
Sure.
And they looked at it as cross-marketing. Well, that didn't work out so well for them. TWA actually went bankrupt, was purchased and all that. And you talk about their bankruptcy was all related to the flight attendants. And you probably look at me and go, what do you mean? Well, in the 60s and 70s, if you were a flight attendant for TWA and you became pregnant, you lost your job. So all the moms went to court, and it didn't come around until the early 80s, and they won.
Wow.
And they all got back pay, all their seniority.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know that is my wife was a flight attendant for TWA, and she lost her job because all the moms came back.
Oh, wow.
But, to progress a little bit with that, when you look at the Century 21 thing, it was all about cross-marketing. It didn't work for them. The company went bankrupt. They sold it to Metropolitan Life Insurance Company.
Oh.
And MetLife, again, they thought they could push the life insurance and their financial programs onto Century 21. That didn't work. They sold it to HFS, Hospitality Franchising Systems, and Hospitality Franchise Systems sold that to Realogy, and that's who they're with today. And one last one, which you'd be interested in, was, again, big money coming into the industry, was Coldwell Banker. In 1981, it was purchased by Sears Roebuck. And you go, what in the world would they want that for?
Yeah.
Well, Sears actually had two other companies. They had Allstate Insurance, and they had Dean Witter, the stock brokerage company. So their thought pattern was cross-marketing. So they used to have kiosks in every Sears. So you'd walk in, there'd be a kiosk for Dean Witter, one for Allstate, and one for Century for Coldwell Banker.
Yeah.
So when you went in, they thought you'd buy your house from Coldwell Banker, you'd go next door, buy your homeowner's insurance.
Get your refrigerator.
And exactly. So your homeowner's insurance from them, and then you go next door and say, gosh, I forgot to fund my IRA. That's what we're going to do. And on the way out, you'd buy your washer and dryer, the Kenmore washer and dryer, and then you'd also grab a garden hose.
Oh my gosh,
So big dollars coming into the industry is not anything new.
It isn't anything new, and what everybody finds out is it's not the panacea that they think it is.
Right.
And Coldwell Banker ended up selling 2 times after that, and now they're also owned by Realogy.
Well, my prediction is, again, with all these top-heavy companies out there, they're not going to be able to compete with those that need to move quickly, like a Realty One Group, because we're so light.
And these companies, again, are all public, and what are they looking at? They're looking at the consumer. They're not looking at their agents and their brokers.
Right.
Well, such a pleasure to have you here this evening, Vinnie. So grateful for you to be here and coming from the Knoxville area, watching the game.
Yeah, and we got killed by Georgia.
We won't tell that Georgia fan in the Realty One Group.
Thank you with all my heart. Vinnie, for the leadership that you provide Realty One Group, okay? I mean that with all my heart.
Monte,
We're going to make you proud here in Middle Tennessee. Realty One Group
proud.
Music City is going to be a dominating force. I promise you that.
I have no doubt.
Thank you, sir.
Love you.
Thank you to all our listeners this evening. You've been listening to the talk of Music City Real Estate.